The old 14-mile loop known as the Nordschleife at the Nurburgring in Germany was once the place where Formula One drivers made their reputations. In the present era, the new Nurburgring will play a role in the development of the Grand Prix stars of the future. Welcome to weekend number 3 of the 2006 GP2 season presented by Meguiar's here on Speed. I'm Bob Varsha alongside David Hobbs and Steve Matchett. The GP2 series, now in its second season, was designed to showcase young driving talent. The Grand Prix teams are watching, of course, and these young drivers know they are. That creates a double-edged sword, as Peter Windsor explains.
GP2 is, yes, about Dallara chassis, Renault engines, slick Bridgestone tyres, about huge budgets, 1.3 million euro per drive. But it's also about this bit of tarmac behind me. It's about Formula One Motorhome Alley, impressing the guys who are going to be instrumental in the future of these young GP2 stars. Talk about the effect that this Formula One paddock has on you as a driver. Do you feel any different when you're in the car?
A little bit, yeah, because for sure there's a little bit more pressure, and it's very important for us because we know that here everybody is watching us. So, last year a few people came from GP2 to Formula One, so obviously is the championship that Formula One was looking after. So it's very important for us to be here and to compete here.
I think GP2 is a perfect step for the drivers that they're getting to F1 because you are just in front of them. They're always looking at you, and you're always in the same tracks, and you have the opportunity to meet people up there. So it's very important.
How does it feel to be racing in front of the Formula One guys?
Obviously, it's very nice, because a lot of team manager and team owner, they are looking in this category because it's just a small step down category after before Formula One, sorry. And obviously, it's nicer than some people watching the race, and maybe they have a chance. I have a chance to be there again.
Well, the Sunday race I think is a bit more fun because it's when all the F1 people is really looking at the race because it's a race day.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure as well because there is a lot of people, but so often the races are much more exciting the Sunday because the people in the front are not the fastest ones, so you got a lot of overtaking, and the races are very exciting on Sunday.
How did it feel at Valencia when you were not racing in front of the Formula One guys? Did that have a different feel to it from your point of view?
Not really. You always have a lot of pressure from the owner of the team manager, from a sponsorship, from myself, always. But normally, obviously, racing against with the Formula One people and Formula One crowd and it's fantastic. It's great. You finish the race. It's still a Saturday when they finish qualifying, or Sunday morning. A lot of people are watching the Formula One on the grandstand, so it's a really good feeling.
No question about it. Lots of pressure racing in front of the Formula One team managers. Looking at Frank Pereira, who's done his cause no harm this weekend. He had a huge qualifying session, and he'll start on the front row.
Well, he's done a great job, and of course it's a double-edged sword, this racing in front of all those teams, because if you make a stupid mistake, they also notice that.
Nobody knows that better than our pole sitter, Nelson Piquet Jr., who said before the season began, I have to win this championship to get to Formula One. He's in pretty good shape. He leads the Drivers' Championship coming into the weekend by 27-18 over Gianmaria Bruni. We'll be back for the start. A beautiful 80-degree day, track temperature about 105 degrees as the field has formed up, ready to roll off for the start of the main race on the Nurburgring weekend. And what do we have here? A bit of a problem? No sign of yellow flags as Nelson Piquet Jr. and Frank Pereira on the front row lead the field away for their reconnaissance lap. With that, let's take a look at the starting grid for today's race. On pole, as mentioned, Piquet Jr. with his own team, his second pole in 3 weekends after none last year. Next to him, Frenchman Frank Pereira, his best qualifying performance of the year.
Third for the third time this year, and 6 in points is young British man Lewis Hamilton alongside Hiroki Yoshimoto, equaling the best grid position ever for a Japanese driver in GP2 or F3000.
Lots of problems on the grid, as you see. Moving back to row 3, Jose Maria Lopez with the Supernova team alongside Frenchman Alex Premat, a veteran but out-qualified by his rookie teammate Hamilton once again.
Row 4, Adam Carroll for Racing Engineering. His year is not going according to plan at all, alongside Nicolas Lapierre in the first of the Arden cars.
On row 5, Ernesto Vizo in the second iSport car alongside Formula One veteran Timo Glock, one of 2 German drivers racing here on home soil with the BCN team.
In 11th spot, Adrian Baez, who stalled both starts at Imola 2 weeks ago alongside Clivio Piccioni in the first of the Dave Price racing cars.
On row 7, Gianmaria Bruni, another Formula One veteran with his own team, Trident Racing, and alongside him, his teammate, Andreas Zoomer, born in Austria, but racing under a license from the United Arab Emirates.
Tristan Gomendi from France in the iSport International car fills out the 15th spot, and next to him, Felix Patero in the Campos racing machine.
On row 9, Alex Negrão in the second PK sports car, well behind his team leader. Next to him, Ferdinando Monferdini in the DAMS, 17 spots behind his teammate.
In 19th spot, Olivier Pla, 2-times winner last year for Dave Price Racing, still driving for them, alongside Lucas Di Grassi in the Durango, just out-qualifying his teammate.
On row 11, Sergio Hernandez in the second Durango car alongside Michael Ammermuller, the second German in the race, who qualified as high as 12th but was given a 10 grid spot penalty and will start 22nd.
Row 12, Luca Filippi in the FMS International car alongside Spaniard Javier Villa in the Adam Carroll's teammate for Racing Engineering.
And on the 13th and final row, Jason Tahinci, he was one of the cars that you saw stalled while the rest of the field rolled off. The young Turk starts alongside Farouz Fauzi of Malaysia, who actually had qualified higher, but was also issued a penalty in qualifying and fell all the way from 25th to 26th. Piquet Jr. leads them around. A fabulous racetrack, 3.199 miles. The distance, 35 laps, about 112 miles in all, with a required pit stop. See if we've got all the stalled cars running. Oh, bad day for that, Marshall. We'll be back. Welcome back to the GP2 feature event at the Nurburgring. Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, Steve Matchett with you. You see the field making its way around. The final cars coming through the Coca-Cola corner. We had 4 cars stall on the roll-off. Tahinci, Gomedy, Pla, and Filippi, they will start from the back.
I believe it was Gomedy that started all that off. You saw one of the marshals there looking at the side of the car just prior to the cars rolling off on the formation lap. But yeah, Filippi, a lot of problems at the back of the grid.
Well, that's bad for Gomendi, who qualified 15th. To start at the back of this lot, I tell you, it's tough work. You've got 26 cars, and the times are also desperately even.
Now the car's just coming round to form onto the grid prior to the start.
Here come the lights. Listen to the sound of these V8 engines come up, and we'll be away. Oh, slow getaway for Piquet.
Lewis Hamilton
and Yoshimoto.
A pretty bad start.
Oh, and more cars
Yeah,
stalled.
there's about 3 cars stalled towards the back of the grid.
Yashimoto and Hamilton battling down into turn 1. These were the second row starters. And Lopez moves up into third quickly. What happened at the start to Piquet and Pereira?
Very slow getting off the front row of the grid. You're right, Bob. Piquet and Pereira crawling away.
Look at these
all
two,
over 'em.
still battling.
Lewis Hamilton going down the inside there.
Must be some problem with the clutches or something. Now there's Frank Pereira pulling off.
Oh, how disappointing. He was the front row. Lewis Hamilton takes
yes.
the lead.
Lopez jumps into second past Yoshimoto.
Oh, fantastic stuff.
Oh, and diving down the inside. Here's Piquet Jr. trying to make up places. He was going by Nicolas Lapierre and driving with all the aggression made famous by his father, Nelson Piquet Sr., the 3-time world champion. There's Junior.
Piquet dropping down to 8th. An appalling start for Piquet. On board Zuba. And Hamilton's, I mean, he's off in a race of his own already.
Now remember, there is a required pit stop, as you see Pereira parked. So when the yellow flag comes out, expect to see cars coming in.
How disappointing for Frank Pereira, because his season has been going reasonably well, but that was a great grid position for him.
Well, a year ago, we had all those problems with clutches. I'm wondering if something like that came to the fore again.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they held the cars under the red light for a long while, I thought, prior to the start, and I wouldn't be surprised if they started to suffer some clutch problems. They have redesigned that system on the cars for this year. Back with Zuba on board for a moment, but yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised by whether the clutches caught those guys out. Oh, look at that.
Hamilton, Lopez, Yashimoto, Carroll, Viso, Pre-Med. Here comes Lapierre and Piquet Jr. Okay, if Piquet can stay with him here, he's got the line for the next one.
Nearly got those wheels tangled up there, but
Lapierre gave him the old hip check. It's Pre-Med's car. No sign. Well, it's a local yellow. Pereira had never qualified in the top 10 until this weekend. Then he starts from the front row, and his race is over before it begins.
Alex Pre-Met there in the second ART car. He was a guy that really thought he could win this championship this year, but look at this, his young teammate, British rookie Lewis Hamilton has a nearly 2-second lead as they go through the Dunlop curve at the far end of the straight.
All the way down to third gear and then up. There's a replay of the start. Second row goes right by the first. And look at 1, 2, 3, 4 cars further back. Immobile.
Boy, the second row did make a terrific start.
I wonder whether or not these guys at the front, they just were having a problem to see the lights, because the guys on the second row were just off like a bullet.
Timo Glock, one of those who had stalled. That's the third time in 3 race weekends, with 2 races per weekend, that Glock has stalled at the start.
Ferdinando Monfordini slowing up there.
They have just gotten off.
Just a replay. Oh, that'll
there's
do
how
it.
Monfordini got off. Felix
Not slowing up. Felix Patero nudged him. Sergio Hernandez just nudged him there. So has that bent something?
Well, it's a bit
It's a
more
fairly
than
good
nudge,
belt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hamilton off like a rocket.
They're pretty strong, these cars. We've seen in the first couple of races. They're certainly a lot stronger built than the Formula One cars. But, well, you're not supposed to treat them that way, boys.
On board with Zuber, who started 14th and just avoided Glock, who was 2 rows ahead of him.
Yeah, we've seen that before this year already.
Already, look, Hamilton setting that fastest lap, lap 2, 1:43.980.
Hamilton, the young Brit, supported by McLaren Mercedes. Earmarked as a star of the future after dominating British Formula 3. Early pit stops. Monfordini, several cars. Oof. Somebody leaving with style.
Yeah, in that first pit box, you could just nail it straight away without worrying about speed.
Especially if you're worried about that clutch. Just drop that clutch and nail it. So they've got their pit stops in. They'll try to make up ground now before the front runners start. Ooh, Hamilton getting a little tail happy there.
Yeah.
These cars have all got Bridgestone control tyres on there, all the same compound. Bridgestone choose the compound for the weekend. The drivers and teams have nothing to do with it.
Let's have another. I mean, both of those guys on the front row, they're either napping or they couldn't see the lights, is my guess.
Very messy.
Lopez also making a terrific start there.
Hamilton being very careful. Yashimoto got the drop at turn 1, but the Japanese driver was soon just swallowed up by the young Brit. Whoa, that's how close it was for Zuber.
That was that Zuber you commented on earlier. Just nearly around the back.
Man, after that, have a nice day.
He's lucky to be racing. Hamilton again, another fast lap, Hamilton, 42.892.
And remember, in GP2, that fast lap is worth 1 point if you start from your grid position. You can't go to the pit lane late in the race, slap on fresh tires, and pick up that point.
I find it unusual that there's no sponsorship on these rear wings.
Lewis Hamilton won the F3 race, F3 Euro Series race here last year, and of course was the champion. So Lewis Hamilton knows his track.
Rear tyres only going on the car.
Sure. Keep on checking that front wing.
Yeah, there's 2 mechanics. Oh, Hamilton really started to slide around a little bit. But yeah, the 2 mechanics and I'm guessing the team manager are going to look at some problem around the front wing of the car, but only rear tyres changed.
Lewis Hamilton is really using his car up and using his tyres up.
Exactly. I'm wondering if he has such low downforce on the car that's leading to all that slewing around we're watching. And let me correct myself. I said he was a dominator in British F3. It was actually European Formula 3 last year. 15 victories. That's a record in Formula 3 racing for a single season. Monfordini has been knocked into a spin earlier on. That's Lucas de Grassi ahead of him. May have a especially now he's too far back, it looks like, on the downhill run, and steeply downhill. Television, once again, doesn't quite give you a true feeling of how far downhill you go and how steeply to this slightly banked Dunlop corner. It's quicker than it looks.
Paddle shifts on the cars. You see the driver, right hand for upshift, left hand for downshift.
4-liter Renault-based V8s built by Mechachrome.
Incredible to think there are a litre and a half more volume in these engines than the F1 cars are running, although they're restricted to 10,000 RPM in GP2. The Formula One cars now nudging on 20,000. But again, I'm surprised. I said this earlier, how many of the cars aren't running sponsorship on the rear wing, which is prime billboard space on a race car, isn't it?
Yeah, they get worldwide television coverage, including here on Speed. Riding 8th.
That was a little onboard shot of Zubi's 8th at the moment in the points.
Oh, once again, Hamilton locking up the right front.
It needs to be a bit careful because these guys usually come in for their mandatory stop and just change the rears. But of course, if you go and route the front tyres, you've got to change all 4.
That's right.
Well, we saw
Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah, we saw that at the last race, didn't we? It's all very well to only change the rears and use the fronts, but the fronts do start to go off in the closing stages of the race, and then they're all suffering with understeer.
So we saw a lot of that at San Marino 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Clivio Piccioni and Zuber just got off to a rocket ship start there. And Piccioni was down there in 13th spot, and he's down to 6th.
Okay, now there are the pitters. Primat, Lapierre, Baez, Bruni, and Filippi.
Yeah, they're in pretty good shape, really. They're not that far back.
Whoops, Zuber's into the pits.
He's having a fast and frantic day.
I guess.
Trying to miss stall cars.
PK Jr. makes his stop.
Front
changing
tires.
all 4.
Yeah, he may have either locked up and flat spotted, or he found himself in intractable traffic and just decided to get the pit stop done.
Well, he's a long way back too and needs as much speed as he can get.
What are these guys going to do? Just the rears, just the rears. Watch that wheel behind us.
See where PK rejoins.
I like the idea that the mechanics have a spare wheel nut at the side of them just in case of a problem with a gun, but I do wish they'd pick it up when the car's about to drive out. You don't want the rear tire to catch on that, no.
Leave it hooked on your belt like some of the Formula One mechanics.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is steeply uphill, the stadium section that was added to the new Nurburgring years ago. We have to stop calling it new. The track is 20 years old now. On board with Michael Ammermuller, who was a sensation early on, one of the least experienced drivers in the series. Picked up a victory in the opening weekend of Valencia. He's had some mixed results since then. And as we mentioned, a 10 grid spot penalty for a violation in qualifying dropped him well back on the starting grid.
He had a bit of bad luck too at Imola a couple of weeks ago. Under the pace lap, he ran into the back of Alexander Primat, which wasn't very clever.
We keep using this onboard shot from Zuber's camera, don't we?
They probably paid a lot of money for it.
They paid a lot of money for it. It was the only one that worked.
That's the only one that's working, probably, yeah. Yeah, I remember the commercial director at Benetton saying, you know, that rear wing, it's absolutely prime retail space because every shot of the car from every angle other than right behind will always have the rear wing on the display. Lopez in the pit from 3rd in the Supernova International, released back into the pit lane.
Looks like he's going to leave the scuffs on the front. I believe Ernesto Viso also pitted. And there goes Alex Primat. So Hamilton with that fast lap on those fresh tires, half a set of fresh tires, if you will.
Looks like he's got a bit of understeer there, or quite a bit of understeer.
It's a very throaty engine, this Renault, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, it's got an 8-into-1 exhaust system that really makes for an interesting note. Checking the running order: Hamilton, Yoshimoto, Lopez, Carroll, Piccioni, Viso. Viso has just pitted. That will move up Olivier Pla, Alex Nicarao, Alex Primat, Nicolas Lapierre. Nelson Piquet Jr. moves into the top 11, or top 10, make that.
That gap, 8.8.
But he needs a good gap because everybody else pretty much is serious contention has already done their pit stop behind him. So we've got to watch his times now to see if they start to fade off, although the last lap but one was the fastest of the race so far. So obviously he's not, his tyres aren't hurting too badly yet. A bit less exuberant coming around that first turn there, which when you look at it from the air, it is incredibly tight, that turn one. We're now in the new Mercedes complex. Look at that, 2 seconds on Yoshimoto in that one lap. He's up to 10.2 seconds in front, or 10.3 really.
Did I miss
Fabio
you?
Piccioni pitting there from 4th.
Dave Price car. Oh, they've got problems with the left rear.
Oh, that's it, rev it, boy. Don't hold back. Valve's bouncing off the valve cover inside there.
Getting his, what did Peter say, his 1.3 million euros worth?
Yeah. Not a lot of money for a support series. My gosh. $2.5 million for the team.
Well, it's the mechanic on the gun that having the problem. I saw his teammates there trying to console him there as the car pulled out of the pits. But
Luke. That was the Campos pits, team owned by former Spanish Formula One racer Adrian Campos. Felix Portero pits for the Campos team right now.
again, 14th currently in the running.
Oh, he's all over that red limiter. Up the hill they go. Oh, Piccioni
on his new tires. They weren't like that.
So much for that. So as I was saying, Hamilton good on his new tires. Same for Piquet Jr., while Piccioni not quite so good. Push, as if this kid needs to be told. 27 laps to go. We'll take a break and return with more of the GP2 Series presented by Meguiar's here on Speed. Welcome back. There's Olivier Pla just exiting the pits. As he came down the pit lane, his left front tire picked up a huge sheet of plastic from somewhere. He managed to get it off before he took to the track, but that might have been a huge problem. Now let me correct something I said earlier. Race leader Lewis Hamilton has yet to pit. Meanwhile, this guy, Nelson Piquet Jr., running in second behind the car ahead there, is on somewhat fresh tires after his pit stop, and he is cutting some pretty quick laps.
I think that's Viso, Ernesto Viso in front of him, who is not an easy man to get around.
Yeah, Yoshimoto, Carl and Nagara all haven't stopped. So the top four runners yet to make that mandatory pit stop. And you can stop as often as you like, of course. You don't just have to do one. You can stop 10 times if you desire to or need to.
And the gap from Hamilton back to Piquet is 47 seconds, so Hamilton can stop here and change and still come out ahead, probably. But of course, Piquet could be in the catbird seat here for tomorrow's race. He's in 10th at the moment. He could easily get up to 8th, which is currently held by Nicolas Lapierre. And of course, whoever finishes 8th in this race today starts on the pole tomorrow.
Today is Formula One style points distribution, 10, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In the sprint race on Sunday, only the top 6 will score points. And coming into the weekend, it was Piquet Jr. leading Gianmaria Bruni by 9. Bruni with a 2-point edge over Ernesto Viso for second in the championship, followed by Nicolas Lapierre, Michael Ammermuller, Lewis Hamilton in 6th.
And Bruni is now 11th, having just overtaken on that lap Zuber.
That's his teammate ahead of Zuber, I think, isn't it? Yeah, that's Bruni.
11th and 12th, as you see.
Meanwhile, back up front,
Hamilton, ART Grand Prix, a team co-owned by Nicolas Todt, manager of Formula One driver Felipe Massa, and son of Ferrari team principal Jean Todt.
And I tell you what, Lewis Hamilton keeps on pulling out. He's another 2 seconds up on the road on Yoshimoto, who is currently in second spot.
Yeah, look at the gap from third to fourth.
Well, the highest placed guy who's already pitted is Alex Premat in fifth, and he is over 40 seconds behind Hamilton. It's a great racetrack to visit. There's a hotel right by the start-finish line, a group of museums, and of course, just outside the final corner of the new Nurburgring is the old Nordschleife, more than 14 miles long, and you can pay money and take your car out there.
Nelson Piquet going down.
Almost wheel to wheel.
Ernesto Vizo tried to close the door there, but he left it too late. Here we see it again.
Watch them interlock wheels.
Oh, Piquet's all locked up, isn't he?
Well,
They did well to avoid a shunt there,
Absolutely.
actually. Piquet diving down the inside.
but look, see, Vizo moves over there, but it's obviously way too late. And bang, it just touched wheels there.
Yeah. But no rubber-to-rubber contact. Now Piquet went back behind him. I wonder if he was ordered to give the position back.
I don't see why it would be.
Well, no, you wouldn't think, but maybe.
I think he must have just outbraked himself into the Mercedes complex, and it went all wrong again.
Vizo got him back.
Sliding around a lot. Piquet's car is sliding around a lot at the back.
He's got a little wild and crazy side to him.
He's already had his stop, so he doesn't want to mess these tires up. He's got a long way to go in this race yet.
Piquet.
Yeah.
There's a running order, as you see Premat in fifth. The highest of the cars that have stopped.
Premat's looking pretty good in that position. And here
Whoa,
comes Lewis
there's
Hamilton.
the race
Is that Lewis
leader.
Hamilton, our leader?
Yep.
Now, mechanics, calm down. That's the problem these GP2 teams have. I think they're so new to pit stops. They all become a little bit jittery. Just
Very shrewd move there by Lewis Hamilton. He had just caught up with some lap traffic. It's the first traffic he's come across. He's had all that lovely clear track. Saw them, zip, in we come.
nice and steady. Deep breathing. Don't panic.
No panic, pa, as they'd say in that team.
It looked like rears only.
That was okay.
Yoshimoto and Adam Carroll went by.
But they have yet to stop.
And Carroll hasn't crashed yet.
Adam Carroll having a better day than usual, coming up from the fourth row on the grid to second.
So Hamilton out in third, ahead of everyone who has pitted.
Boy, oh
That was a
boy.
good stop, actually.
Very good stop.
Yeah.
Very quick. Must have been all that coaching they got.
This is Negrao, who is Nelson Piquet Jr.'s teammate. Zandy Negrao.
Well, it's that desire to work fast, isn't it? That, you know, it's a matter of less haste, more speed.
Yep. The hurrier I go, the behinder I get.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Boy, Hamilton has just got this race by the neck.
Well, the ART team's going to be looking pretty good here, because when Carroll and Yoshimoto stop, Premat's going to slip into second or third spot there.
ART Grand Prix sent last year's champion Nico Rosberg to the Williams Cosworth team in Formula One.
On his very first race, he set the fastest lap of the race and nearly only finished just off the podium, so that was a pretty good start. Hasn't been quite that good since, but nevertheless, he's well, what do you expect? I mean, first year in, and he's driving the Williams with the Cosworth engine.
Second in the championship, Heikki Kovalainen of Finland is now testing with the Renault team and will almost surely be a Renault Formula One driver next year. And third in the championship, Scott Speed, of course, races with the Toro Rosso team in Formula One. Here's race leader Yoshimoto, but he may have left this stop too late. He was losing all kinds of time.
There's a tear off, taking off his helmet there. That little bit of plastic you saw. Exit car left.
So Adam Carroll will take over the race lead.
Oh, he's using some tyres up there a little bit.
Yeah.
Going to
Hamilton
that Mercedes
will go by.
complex.
4 tyres going on Yoshimoto. Listen, take your time, boys. Take your time.
Predicting he may come out in fourth.
It's better to lose half a second by taking your time than lose 30 seconds because the wheel nut's gone flying down
And
the
the
pit
wheel
lane.
rolls down the pit lane. And,
It really is.
oh, is he going to get out for this?
Oh, he comes right out in traffic. He's going to lose a bunch of positions.
Just
He's
got
tough.
that wrong. Down to 12th there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, but he could
Just
easily fight his way back up to 8th
Yeah.
with fresh.
Oh,
Whoa.
we're looking at.
What's happened here? That's Luca
Filippi,
Filippi
right?
didn't reach the pit lane.
In the FMS car, he qualified in 23rd spot. Wow, now I wonder what has gone on there.
Well, we can't blame it on fuel. There's no refueling in this series.
This is the team co-owned by Formula One driver Giancarlo Fisichella.
That's not to suggest it isn't a fuel feed problem. If something's broken,
Yeah.
but they're not going to run out of fuel.
Oh, Philippi had already pitted, so that must have been something mechanical.
There's Felix
Meanwhile,
Patero locking up there.
torturing that right front Bridgestone.
Adam Carroll, the leader.
Has Carroll pitted yet? No,
No,
I
he hasn't.
I just think of the car's sliding around a lot, isn't it? It must be now. I think the time is now. Look at the...
Adam Carroll had that horrific barrel roll in the first weekend, and then last weekend at Imola he also went off the road, causing damage.
Well, Hamilton in second place is charging, so Carroll's going to do well to hold on to a contending position after his pit stop. We'll be back with more of the GP2 series presented by Maguire.
Today on Speed, Schumacher snatched victory at San Marino. Now world champion Fernando Alonso wants it back. The Formula One battle continues.
Welcome back. 22 laps to go in the featured race of the third GP2 weekend presented by Maguire's here on Speed with Steve Matchett and David Hobbs. I'm Bob Varsha on board with Andreas Zuber. Interesting situation. Born in Austria, carries an Austrian passport, but races under a license issued by the United Arab Emirates. Why do that, you might ask? It's probably a whole lot cheaper.
These guys are racing for a 9th, 10th and 11th. Zuber currently in 11th. Those two guys in front of him obviously 10th and 9th.
Hamilton, new fastest lap of the race, a 42.782. He's now flying far quicker than Carroll. Carroll's team must be looking at the timing and scoring monitors and saying the tyres are giving up. You need to come in and change now. You're losing heaps of time because of the state of the tyres.
He's taken 4 seconds off of Carroll in the last 2 laps. So Carroll's a sitting duck for Hamilton, but we'll see where he can get back out.
Negrao, who's running in 3rd, of course, he has yet to stop. When he and Carroll stop, Primat is going to slip into 2nd behind Hamilton, so you're going to have a 1-2 with the ART cars, which is going to be pretty nice, considering that Primat qualified down in 6th.
Yeah, by direct comparison, Hamilton with that 42.7, Primat's last lap of 44.3. This is Monfordini back in.
Drive-through penalty. There it is, yeah.
I wonder what that's all about. We didn't see... Well, we also didn't see Nelson Piquet get by Ernesto Bizzo. Okay, this is for a top 10 position. Not quite in the points yet. Valles, no doubt, driving the mirrors, getting some lockup down there in the Dunlop. I said it's a slightly banked corner. It's faster than it looks, but these young Chargers are all taking it perhaps even faster than they think they can. Adam Carroll, the race leader. Farouz Fauzi of Malaysia, who started last, now a lap down.
Adam Carroll's still not coming in to change those tyres.
No.
Despite the fact that his times are down to the 45s now, and Hamilton did a 42 just a couple of laps ago.
This is Zandy Negrao from PK Sports.
Bit of a surprise to see the Supernova team with Fauzi doing as poorly as they do. That's actually a pretty good outfit.
Nice.
That was a quick stop.
It was.
Very quick. PK trying to get past Lapierre.
There comes the best battle. Valles, Bruni, Zuber, Pla. And there comes Negrao coming out behind Viso. Excuse me, Tristan Gomedy.
Tristan Gomedy, who's had a pretty mixed weekend so far. He had a nice, relatively good qualifying position. Well, 16th, if you can call that good. But then, of course, stalled on the grid.
This is just what we started to see about the exact same stage of the race at Imola.
This is Lopez, Lapierre, and Piquet all duking it out for basically 5th spot.
The front tyres again, guy. I think the front tyres starting to go off. I'm not sure about this policy of only changing the rears.
Up the hill, very fast left-hand sweep. Fast right-hand sweep.
race leader.
Carroll, the leader, pits.
Whoa! It almost
Those
does a
tires
David
really are
Coulthard
sharp.
there.
Yes.
Coulthard at Adelaide,
Absolutely.
hitting the
Who would forget
pit wall on the way in.
it? We won't forget it. I'm sure as heck he won't.
It's true.
We won't let him forget it.
So Hamilton takes over the race lead.
And I suspect that with the crowd stopping at Premat is now in second.
Once again, just rears.
Are they changing only the rear tyres? Yeah, Bob, you're right.
So Lopez, Lapierre, and Piquet have now moved up to battling the 4th spot.
Well, Ernesto
This is that
Viso
battle.
hanging on grimly in the 8th spot. As David mentioned, 8th place becomes pole position for the sprint race to wrap up the weekend on Sunday. And Viso has been on that front row for the sprint race in each of the first 3 weekends of the season thus far.
That's a terrific battle. That's a terrific battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And there's Adam Carroll rejoined with his new tyres. His old one's definitely looking a bit on the shot side. So Adam Carroll with his brand new tyres should be able to reel these
Well,
3 in.
as Steve mentioned, he's just pounding those fronts. You just saw him lock up and
Nicholas
go.
Lapierre locking up big time into the Dunlop curve there. Big temptation there. It's wide, looks wide. You can see it from miles coming up as you come down that hill. And you look at it and you think, this is going to be easy, you know, whap down the inside if you remember.
Where's that
Here we
apex
go.
again?
Goes around the outside. Oh, this is going to be difficult. This is going to be very difficult.
No.
Contact. I wouldn't want to overtake somebody on the outside
No,
of
with
that
that left-hander coming up.
But he's much quicker out of the Dunlop curve, wasn't he? Much quicker.
Oh, there's something broken on the car. Oh, it's a black flag. 17.
Jason Dahinchi, the young Turk,
Yeah.
Well, that will make a
running back in 24th and a lap
make
down.
a huge difference to the results.
That is ejection from the race. No appeal. You are out.
That's Fisichella's team. And I believe this is the 2nd race weekend of the season when both FMS cars have dropped out or been yanked.
Boy, he was so...
Whoa, we got a split air.
Super. Bruni,
It's
Jimmy
in the
Bruni.
chicane.
Boy, those guys that cut the chicane.
Somebody shot through the chicane there to
I think they
avoid
did
it.
the right thing.
Yeah.
They would have been a shunt otherwise.
That was Negrao who straight line the chicane, but will they let him get away with that?
Well, they should do.
Look, Bruni's front wing.
There was only 2 options. One was to cut the chicane. The other one was to have a shunt. They shouldn't penalise the
rules.
drivers for that.
Rules are rules. You can't just go cut the chicane off.
You do play devil's advocate, David Hobbs.
Oh,
Whoa.
that's what happened. Bruni was his own worst enemy right there, I think. Just a little late on the brakes. And,
Baez's rear wing is hanging off the car.
and that was Bruni's teammate.
I was going to say, Jimmy Bruni running into his teammate. That's really useful.
Man. This is from Zuber.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all he could have done. And he didn't really gain anything on anybody. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton. Penalty for Hamilton? What's this all about?
Wow. I think that's the 2nd time he's had that this year.
So that will elevate Premat to the race lead. Meanwhile, Baez continuing with that rear wing askew. Deranged, as David might say.
This race is over. You can't. You're going to get pace out of the car, and basically you don't want that wing to fall off.
Well,
on
I
the track.
can't.
That's what I'm thinking.
They'll black flag him for sure, won't they?
Well, he needs to pit. It's over.
Okay, so Hamilton leads by 15.5 seconds over Premat, but Hamilton will head for the pit lane for a drive-through. Still running 2 seconds a lap, 2.5 or so quicker than his teammate.
But of course, overtaking is another thing altogether.
Yeah. So another dominant weekend for ART Grand Prix. There's a look down the field. We'll take another break. See what happens to Lewis Hamilton. This is the GP2 season presented by Maguire's here on Speed. Don't go away. Welcome back to the GP2 series presented by Maguire's here on Speed. This is the European Grand Prix weekend. European Grand Prix, a name invented when a country already had a round of the Formula One World Championship. For many years, 2 races might be named for their countries, as you see Valles finally making the pits with the wrecked rear wing as a result of his contact with Jimmy Bruni.
Well, Valles was pretty unfortunate there because Jimmy Bruni just lost it on braking going into the chicane and ran right into the back of him.
Box means pit. Lewis Hamilton, who has been called in for an as yet unexplained drive-through penalty. One guess is excessive speed in the pit lane.
That's the most likely, isn't it? Hamilton really pounding out the laps now, trying to minimize the effects of this drive-through penalty, but it's going to hit him hard. 3 laps you have to serve that penalty. If you don't serve that lap within the drive-through penalty within 3 laps, you are liable with the black flag too.
103 laps. He's certainly not going to build up a big enough gap over his teammate Alex Premat in second to get back out in the lead.
Very disappointing for Hamilton. That very disappointing.
Still looking for an explanation. Hamilton was black flagged in the most recent round of the championship at Imola, Italy.
Also went leading easily.
Right. He pitted, came out, followed several cars passing the pace car when he should not have.
I'm still not sure that that wasn't a bit of official bungling. They were waving people by, and I'm sure that he thought he was being waved by as well. And of course,
is he in? He's in.
Here he comes.
Now, don't do it again, because it's very easy to get caught speeding in the pit lane, serving your drive-through penalty. Take your time and calm. That's it. That's it. That's good.
This is the key moment of the race thus far. The question will be, can Hamilton recoup? At Imola, he finally just parked the car.
very disappointing.
Eyeballing the car. Looks like everything's all right.
Here he goes.
There's Premat letting Timo Glock go by to make up a lap. I'm not sure that's the right tactical move right now with Hamilton coming out of the pits full of race. So Hamilton is second, and he will try to run down his teammate Premat, who was out qualified by the young British driver, and he is now run down and passed by him. Premat will really have cause for mourning because your teammate is your worst rival. Back from the third place car, Javier Lopez, or Jose Maria Lopez.
In front of Lapierre and Nelson Piquet Jr., who's running in fifth. There you see him, and right behind him is Adam Carroll, who was our race leader for a bit.
Oh, man.
Piquet just torches those tires, doesn't he?
Permanent cloud of tire smoke down in Dunlop, which is somehow appropriate.
Yes, absolutely.
Saw a bit of squirm there from Lapierre behind Lopez.
So there we see the next
acceleration.
We see the next pit signal that Lewis Hamilton's going to get there. P2 +2. That's +2, of course, over Lopez.
Oh, this is desperate for Premat. He has got to keep Hamilton behind him. Oh, my. Hamilton trying to overcome his teammate. Lopez in third. We'll be back with more of the GP2 race from the Nurburgring, presented by Meguiar's.
Fueled by our...
Welcome back to the Nurburgring round of the GP2 series, presented by Meguiar's here on Speed. You're looking at the 4th, 5th, and 6th place runners. Nelson Piquet
Nelson Piquet goes down the inside of the chicane there, bouncing over the curb.
Oh, Lapierre comes back.
Lapierre trying to come back.
Adam Carroll
here comes
up
Adam Carroll up the outside.
Oh,
They haven't
tight
finished yet.
right-hander. Don't touch.
Oh, Adam Carroll just loves these difficult maneuvers. Pulled it off.
Okay, nose to tail now.
Sacre bleu.
Oh, what do you do?
got
What
to
do you
tell
do? What do you do? Gonna split him. Oh, late on the brakes is Piquet Jr. Carroll and Lapierre dueling now as Piquet.
Carroll just in front, but he's on the outside. He's got to go the long way around here. Oh, he keeps on hanging in there.
Oh,
Carroll sideways. But he still hangs on to that position. He got around Lapierre.
Guess it's okay to be sideways if everybody else is.
Wow.
A pretty hair-raising.
It was.
That's Lopez up ahead in third. Whew. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton has closed up on teammate Alex Premat. Couldn't slip one of David Hobbs' favorite cigarette paper analogies between them.
Adam Carroll in hot pursuit now of of Nelson Piquet Jr.
There's another look.
It again. Wow, talk about a lockup, and pulled it off.
Looked like a shuttle launch.
I thought he was going to outbrake himself there, and that Lapierre would whistle by him again, but it was not. Look at this.
This is from Lopez. Man.
That old steering wheel's a bit rough in the old hand now. And here's the lead.
Oh, look at these guys.
Teammates. Premat leading Hamilton. Hamilton had this race won until he was called to the pits.
But
for a
he'd be
drive-through penalty.
absolutely desperate to get by Premat. He wants to win this race in the worst possible way, but so does Premat.
Well, absolutely. Premat is 10th in the championship, 4 places behind Hamilton. And both of them have lost a ton of ground to Nelson Piquet.
Imagine where Hamilton would be now if he hadn't had that
Gone down the
drive-through.
inside. No.
Boy, what kind of lines were those? I wonder if Premat's having tire trouble. Meanwhile, back to Piquet, Carroll, and Lapierre. Oh, Hamilton has gotten ahead. Oh, dear. Well, German television decided to look away momentarily, and that's when it happens.
There we go. To
There you go.
amateurs. This is what look at that.
Well, he made that look easy, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if Premat doesn't have a bit of a problem. Discretion being the better part
Yeah,
of
because he's got a big
Right.
problem calling
The
Lewis
problem is
Hamilton.
this
He's very
talented
fast.
guy flying up behind you. I realize that.
It's too easy.
There's Jean Todt.
Well, of course, this is what they were saying at the bidding with Peter Windsor. You know, these guys do watch these form of these
Absolutely.
GP2 races.
Approaching 90 degrees, so Jean had to go for an extra sweater.
He's taking his finger wrapping off now. He can chew his nails now if he likes.
Now, what have we?
What are we looking at here? Oh, Olivier Plat.
This is
Yoshimoto started on the second row and has just gradually slipped back to ninth. He made a terrific start. Both the second row guys.
Yeah, both
made a
the guys
terrific
on the
start.
second row.
And
Still.
gradually fought his way back to ninth position. A bit like Jenson Button in Formula One. Fighting his way backwards on every lap.
Let it go, Jim.
Come on,
Let
you
it go.
guys. I think there's another spot. Hamilton now, he's got in front. Now, talking about people watching, what do you think Jenson Button's doing with Lewis Hamilton there from Britain?
Hamilton coming up quickly in his metaphorical mirrors.
His knees will be quaking.
Yoshimoto is still a fascinating personality. Frontman for a Japanese rock and roll band. Second year in the series. And a much improved driver this year, it must be said. Looking toward the back. Well, Timo Glock has had no luck at all yet this year. After a year, well, a few races in Formula One and a cup of coffee in the Champ Car Series in the United States. Trying to wend his way forward in open wheel racing back on home soil. Coming up on 10 laps to go, we'll take another break and return for more of the GP feature race from the European Grand Prix, presented here on Speed by Maguire's. Welcome back to the GP2 series from the Nurburgring. Ooh, Nelson Piquet Jr. in 4th place, locking up that right front down at Dunlop once again. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton, despite 2 pit stops, including a drive-through, has a lead of almost 7.5 seconds over his ART Grand Prix teammate Alex Premat. Jose Maria Lopez runs 3rd, and then the battle you just saw. Piquet Jr., Adam Carroll, Nicolas Lapierre, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
I'll tell you what, Lewis Hamilton's got to be some driver. He absolutely won that Euro Series last year. He was terrific in Formula Ford before that. And he came from about 8 or 9 seconds behind Premat, and now he's 8 seconds up. Piquet again, Nelson Piquet giving that right front some absolute horrendous stick.
Or non-stick in this case.
Or non-stick.
Lap 5, P4.
Well, Lewis Hamilton has just tossed in a 43.3. I mean, he's going to have a catalog full of... Oh, is that Monfordini off? Oh, thought it might be Yoshimoto, who has moved up and is challenging Andreas Zuber for 8th, the final points-paying position. And as we mentioned earlier, pole when they invert the top 8 finishers today to set the grid for tomorrow's sprint race.
Doesn't seem to be any damage to the car. I guess he just took himself off on worn tires. We may get a replay.
It's a fairly steep part of the hill. I wonder if that's down in Dunlop or the run out of Dunlop.
I don't know. They're not difficult. They're not easy to push on grass. See, they're
not easy to push uphill.
His feet have got no grip at all.
No, they need to change the
slipped.
compound on the shoes.
Oh,
well, that's the end of it.
Coming to a stop. Not sure where that is. Well, I do know that it is out.
Yeah.
So both DAMS cars out of the race. Oh, LaPierre trying to get by PK. Looks like Adam Carroll already has.
Adam Carroll's made the move. So PK's tyres have been going off big time for the last 5 laps. We've seen those replays of locking up a lot.
So busy watching Fedini park his car.
Oh, PK's tyres went. His tyre let go.
Left front tire.
Well, we're just saying his tyres were going down. And what were we saying earlier on about the not changing the front tyres? Did PK not change the front tyres?
He keeps locking him up.
That's interesting. He beat up the right front time after time through Dunlop, but it looks like the left front is the one that let go.
Boy, it sure did let go.
Yeah.
You can see the casing flapping about there.
I recall at San Marino at the end of the race 2 weeks ago. He lost several positions in the closing laps with knackered tires.
PK's car. Here's the replay of it.
Pop.
There, watch the left front.
Oh, yeah. That's a very, very fast, one of the fastest corners here.
Yeah.
But with a lot of runoff area, that gravel definitely slowed him up a bit, although skimming across it a lot of the way, but just like an arrow.
Yeah, once it's settled in the gravel, it slowed it down, but flying over it isn't going to slow you at all.
Tell you, his foot pressed to the floor there, but not much happening.
Well, he's out of the car and he's walking.
Well, again, the safety of these circuits these days, that great big tyre barrier, that huge runoff area first. Not good for his race tomorrow, though.
No, not at all. He'll be deep in the field for the sprint race. You see the damage.
And of course, mechanics are going to have a busy night tonight on that car. Very busy.
Remember, he is the points leader, so he'll get no points today. He'll start deep in the field for the sprint finale on Sunday.
And meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton, our leader, with just 3 laps to go now. Of course, he didn't change his front tyres either, so I'm sure a lot of other people in the paddock are wondering about that now.
Let's have another look at PK's tyre on the car. Look at it round here. There's a big black spot start to form on the tyre. Right there. You just start to see it delaminate there.
But started off as a blister, didn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think?
I think, yeah, again, I think all that sliding around, I mean, it would be natural.
Oops.
Oh, Degrassi going off. Again, this is the tyres going off again. Everybody using these again.
Well,
as you were saying, Bob, at the top of the show, controlled tyres. No one's got a choice to run different compounds, but we saw this exactly the same in Imola. I just can't quite get to grips with why the guys are so reluctant to change the front tyres in the pit
Well,
stop.
I guess, like you said, though, they're inexperienced crew members. They take a long time to do it. They easily make mistakes. Obviously, you cut down on your mistakes by 50% if you only change 2 of the tyres, not 4. I guess they're just maybe not prepared to do that sort of stuff.
Well, you're right, David. And another thing we shouldn't forget, of course, is these are not Formula One teams, are they?
They're not Formula 1 teams, not Formula mechanic.
No.
And the other thing, of course, you know, we've seen all these right fronts locking up going into these tight corners, which you'd think would flat spot, well, it's done flat spot the tyre. But the left front, these cars understeer a lot.
Yes.
These GP2 cars do understeer. We've seen that from our onboard views.
Yeah.
They understeer a lot. And, of course, it's the left front that really takes the load here.
Viso, Zero,
right,
and Yashimoto here.
Yeah, you pick up a good point.
Like at the Coca-Cola corner, the Dunlop corner.
I mean, we see the right front tyre lock up because it's unloaded, which is kind of the dramatic sight to see the fact that the tyre's locking up and unloaded. But it's the left front that's taking the stick. You're right. Yeah.
Well, Yashimoto moves up into 8th place. That'll put him on pole for the sprint race if he can hold it. That's the same thing that happened 2 weeks ago. Here's another look at.
Oh, yeah,
look at that.
Yeah. There it's starting to go. Look at the blister.
Yeah.
Right there.
Delaminating.
Yeah.
And that is purely and simply because the real heat on these tyres, on these cars, is in that left front. One of the reasons you've got to dial out the understeer as much as you can.
Oh, man. And that is what happens.
That accident looked so much like the Schumacher accident at Silverstone, didn't it, when he speared the tyres
This is for third place now. This is Adam Carroll trying to separate Jose Maria Lopez from the final spot on the podium. Oh, wide goes Lopez.
And Carroll has driven a very, very, very good race. We've seen him make a couple of really nasty mistakes this year, but today he's driven brilliantly. But he's also driven incredibly aggressively.
Lopez is all over the place.
He's managed to pull it off.
Watch Lopez try to hold him off. He'll make the run down to the Dunlop corner. And that's LaPierre behind
Oh,
Carroll.
look at the right front tire. Look at the right front tire.
Zuber's
tire's going to go. Zuber's tire's going to go. Oh, that made it much worse.
Just like Kimi Rosberg and the McLaren Mercedes in last year's European Grand Prix.
Because the tyres overheated, it's absolutely knackered, it's on the way out. Of course, every time he puts the brakes on now, it just locks it up and makes it even worse.
That's Yoshimoto behind him, gunning for 7th.
He needs to be careful.
Boy, if Zuber gets past, he could still conceivably hold on for 8th place and be on pole tomorrow, but Negrão should be right behind him. No sign of him, though. Oh, Negrão's gone by. So Yoshimoto is back out of the points again. And there's a big gap behind them, as you see. So these guys will settle it between them with 1 to go.
Well, how the heck did Negrão get around the... I guess...
Yoshimoto.
Boy, when he turns that little that left kink there, he must have no grip at all from that right front.
Oh, boy. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton with a dominating drive.
His tires look okay, don't they, Steve?
They do.
Yeah, they do.
Makes you wonder how he wound up 3rd on the grid.
He didn't change his front tires either, but of course the car setup and the driver ability obviously just showing.
Well, he hasn't been fighting with anybody, as you were saying at Imola. He's just out on a Sunday drive.
Easy for you to say.
About half a lap to go. Hamilton has had an up-and-down season thus far. The victory. Oh, there goes the right front.
Well,
no, it isn't gone. It's still air in it.
It's going.
Well, it's let's put it this way: it doesn't have much grip. So that puts Yoshimoto in pole position for tomorrow.
Lewis Hamilton will pick up the win. The last victory in this series, or its predecessor, International Formula 3000, for an English driver was at the Hungaroring back in 2001 when Justin Wilson won the championship. To the line comes Lewis Hamilton, picking up the victory. And he is a fired-up young driver.
Very, very happy boy, I can tell you that.
18 points behind Nelson Piquet Jr. coming in the championship. Piquet Jr. out of the race, so those 10 points will move him up. And if he can win tomorrow's race, he could conceivably leave the weekend tied with Piquet.
So Premack crosses the line in 2nd. You imagine the gap if Hamilton hadn't have had that drive-through penalty.
Carroll got Lopez for the 3rd spot on the podium as ART Grand Prix picks up its 3rd 1-2 finish in GP2. Zuber, he'll be out of the points, but he will make it home, it appears.
Well, I'm amazed that tire is still on the rim.
So the order is Hamilton, Premack, Carroll, Lopez 4th, LaPierre 5th, then Viso, Negrão, and Yoshimoto. Those 8 will be inverted for the sprint race on Sunday. Javier Villa, picks up 9th. Michael Ammermuller from 22nd to 10th. There's your winner. Here comes Zuber.
Well done. I don't know how you did that.
Zuber unofficially finishes in 14th place. There's a look at Zuber giving up the position to Yoshimoto. We'll take a break and return for the podium ceremonies here at the Nurburgring. Welcome back. The GP2 Championship presented by Maguire's here on Speed. Time for the podium ceremonies. Nicholas Todt congratulates his 2 ART Grand Prix drivers. Time for the anthems for champion Lewis Hamilton. brief look at, there's Lewis Hamilton's proud papa. What a moment for him to see his son on the top step of the podium.
Well, Lewis finally doing today what he's sort of been threatening or promising to do all year. I mean, 2 weeks ago in Imola, he had the thing absolutely locked up and made a mistake following the pace car, which I'm not sure was his fault entirely. But I mean, today, just an absolutely driving demonstration. Alexander Premat was much touted to be the champion this year, following on from, of course, Nico Rosberg last year, same team. And boy, oh boy, Hamilton just gave everybody a stern lesson today. Adam Carroll had a fantastic race, pretty hair-raising looking, and he's had a couple of big crashes. But it's typical of him. He's had a couple of big crashes this year, but he managed to pull it off today and got himself on the podium.
Yeah.
On his jump from like 22nd in the points to somewhere around about 9th or 10th. So that's a pretty good jump.
A handy 6 today. Of course, these 3 drivers will be 6, 7, and 8 on the grid for Sunday's finale.
Well done, boys.
Very well done.
Yeah.
An entertaining race all around.
I say, you know, again, if it wasn't for that drive-through penalty, the gap from first to second would have been enormous.
As we mentioned earlier, first victory in this series, or its predecessor, Formula 3000, since 2001, when Justin Wilson was up there. I wonder when the last 2 Brits on the podium finish was. We'll take a break and return. Back at the Nurburgring, where something finally went wrong for the all-conquering ART Grand Prix team this weekend. I always said these boys are learning their skills. Catching the champagne bottle after the podium ceremony is one of the more understated skills of big-time racing. Let's take a look at the results of today's feature race, David.
Well, Lewis Hamilton made a great start from 3rd spot, came through the win. Alex Premat, his teammate, followed him home. Adam Carroll had a fantastic race, coming in there 3rd. Then they were Lopez, Lapierre, Ernesto Vizo, Alexander Negrão, not a bad day for him, and Yoshimoto, who gradually fell back through the field to 8th, but of course will be on the pole for the race tomorrow.
Michael Ammermuller there, driving for Arden down in 10th, and Piccioni getting the Dave Pride Racing car in 11th. A little bit further down, Zerbo, we saw a lot of on-car action with today, driving for Trident, finishing in 14th.
And then, of course, right down there, Nelson Piquet Jr. leading the championship with 27 points at the moment, but scoring no points today after that heavy hit.
And now let's take a look at the highlights of Sunday's sprint race. Another beautiful day at the Nurburgring. The top 8 from Saturday's feature event. Inverted, meaning Hiroki Yoshimoto starts from pole. You see him going through his pre-race routine. Everyone else lines up according to the order of finish from the previous day's race. And like the previous day's race, several cars having trouble getting off of the grid. Ernesto Vizo, Alex Premat, Tristan Gomedy, who also stalled on Saturday, all headed for the pit lane.
There's the start of the race with the gaps, and yet another stall. That's Javier Villa. As they all streak down to that first corner, early morning sunshine, Yoshimoto maintains his lead. Lewis Hamilton started 8th, having won yesterday, and of course had a terrible start. As happened there, you see him right in the middle of the pack. Here's the 3 guys who stalled, leaving the pits. Gomendi getting in front of Premat.
Then Andreas Zauber spun around, contact with Olivier Pla's car. Dave Price Racing, another look at that. That would be the end of Zauber's day. Car being wheeled off. A little bit later, Michael Ammermuller, driving for Arden International, comes into contact with Alexander Negrão, PK Sports.
As mentioned, Hamilton, Saturday's winner, dropped back at the start, then began a charge. Jose Maria Lopez goes down there for 4th spot, then Adam Carroll for 3rd. With the old over-under trip, Nicolas Lapierre. And Hamilton is up into 2nd, and you know it's coming. There's Yoshimoto up front, and Hamilton has him squarely in his sights.
Well, he's alongside him there. Gets it down the inside there. Yoshimoto then ran very wide. Here you see him go, woo, but by dropping him to 5th as Lapierre and Lopez both went by.
But this day, as in Saturday, would belong to Lewis Hamilton and ART Grand Prix. Hamilton sweeping the weekend and doing himself a world of good in the championship. There's his father on the right, celebrating a great weekend in Germany for his son. Congratulations there from Nicolas Lapierre. Here's a look at the sprint results.
Well, Lewis Hamilton again heading the table. Nicolas Lapierre right behind him. Jose Maria Lopez getting by Yoshimoto there, dropped down to 4th from the pole. Adam Carroll having another good day, not quite as good as yesterday. Michael Ammermuller having a better day in the last couple of weeks. Negrão, who shouldn't really be there. That was a dumb move he made there on on the Ardent car, Piccioni and Fauzi.
Tristan Gomedy there, down in 12th. A little bit further down, Jimmy Bruni, driving the Trident car in 16th. Alex Premat, ART, 17th.
There you see the rest of the runners. Nelson Piquet Jr. again not scoring any points today or this weekend with a disastrous result. Look at that, Nelson Piquet Jr. still leading with 27, but look at that, Lewis Hamilton jumped right up to 26, Lapierre 25, Vizo 19, Jimmy Bruni 19, who was right at the front before. Amamula picking up some points today. Adam Carroll actually picked up a lot of points this weekend to 8 points there.
And with that, let's take a look at the Teams Championship after 3 weekends.
3 weekends, and look at that Arden International out in front of ART Grand Prix, 42 to 39. PK Sports taking the 3rd spot with 29. A little bit further down the order, Supernova International taking the 7th spot with only 13 points on the board. And so it goes further on down. Durango down in 12th, 0, Dams 0, and Dave Price Racing, of course, 0 also.
And those are all very well-established teams. A bit of a surprise to see them doing so poorly. That'll wrap things up for the GP2 Series weekend from the Nurburgring. Don't even think of going anywhere, because coming up next is our live speed coverage of the Formula One European Grand Prix from the Nurburgring. For David Hobbs, Steve Matchett, and Peter Windsor, for now, I'm Bob Varsha. Stick around. The European Formula One Grand Prix from the ring starts right now.